Prominent civil rights activists are urging President Joe Biden to intervene in the case of Shanquella Robinson, the 25-year-old who died under suspicious circumstances while on vacation in Cabo, Mexico, with 6 companions. Now, Robinson's family has retained 2 renowned civil rights lawyers who called on U.S. officials to extradite the person named on an arrest warrant issued by Mexican officials or take over jurisdiction and prosecute the person in the U.S. Let's take a look.
Mexican authorities confirmed that they have completed their investigation. We've had the opportunity to review some of the packet, and it has been sent. The ball is clearly in the United States court. The State Department, the Department of Justice, the ball is in your court.
Yeah, let's hope something gets done. Joining us now is civil rights attorney Sue Ann Robinson to discuss how she and attorney Ben Crumb are pursuing justice for Shanquella Robinson and her family. Welcome back to the Black Report, Sue Ann. Appreciate you taking out some time for us today.
Of course, anytime.
So, Sue Ann, can you talk to us about what happened at the press conference in D.C. last week? And have you heard anything from the Biden administration since?
We were calling for a high level of diplomatic immunity. This is a transnational criminal case involving 2 different countries, 2 different criminal justice systems. And while our clients respect that and understand that, it's also been a very, very long time, and nothing is being done by U.S. government officials to intervene on behalf of Shanquella Robinson in this case. I did have the opportunity to go to Mexico on behalf of the family on a fact-finding mission to get answers because they weren't getting any answers stateside. They were just being ping-ponged. U.S. authorities were saying, oh, you have to go to Mexico. And then we were calling Mexico and they were saying, no, it's the U.S. authorities. So they took it upon themselves to say, you know what, Sue Ann, we trust you as our advocate to be our boots on the ground and be our eyes on the ground. And then once I was there in the places where Shanquella was last, we went to the police station, we went to the Attorney General's office, the medical examiner's office. We were able to confirm some things, which include that the Mexican authorities have completed their investigation and turned it over to U.S. authorities, the FBI and Interpol, which is protocol in an extradition case. They have to turn over their investigative packet, and then the State Department, the diplomatic authority in the U.S. has to step in to either extradite or take jurisdiction or ask for concurrent jurisdiction, which is what the U.S. did in the case of the U.S. citizens that were kidnapped. They swiftly got concurrent jurisdiction with Mexico. The FBI was able to put out a reward of $50,000 for anybody who gave information. But that case obviously is different substantively from Shanquella's case where she was murdered. But it does show that the U.S. law enforcement agencies can get concurrent jurisdiction with Mexican law enforcement agencies swiftly. It can be done quickly. And that's really what we need in this case.
Yeah, so I feel like extradition efforts have kind of fallen silent when this case started to kind of open up. I remember reading reports that maybe one of those suspects was on their way to being extradited back to Mexico. Is there a specific status of that extradition or any of them as far as who would be considered suspects that you know of is happening, as we speak?
The issue is for extradition to be done, the protocol under the treaty is that Mexico is required to complete an investigation and then turn over their investigative documents. The normal type of extradition that we're used to is if somebody from Mexico did a crime in Mexico and then fled to the United States, or somebody robs a bank in the United States and flees to Mexico, then it's somewhat easier and more traditional extradition to be sending someone back to their home country. But in this case, the extradition is going to require U.S. authorities to hand over U.S. citizens to Mexican authorities. And although it is unusual, there is still a protocol for that. Or U.S. authorities can do exactly what they did in the kidnapping case, which is request concurrent jurisdiction with Mexican authorities and effectuate their own investigation of the case.
You and several other civil rights attorneys, including Ben Crump, are preparing documents on behalf of the family. Can you tell us the purpose of these documents? How are you all looking to use these documents to bring about justice?
Well, myself and Ben Crump have authored a letter to President Biden and the Secretary of State. Essentially, the letter is calling for a high level of diplomatic intervention, explaining the purpose of us visiting DC, explaining the things that we spoke about in the press conference in detail, so that there isn't later any room for the administration to say they were unaware of the case, they were unaware that their intervention was needed, requested. And we're also going to include the documents that we received from Mexican authorities. So even though our position is that they should already have these documents, we're making sure that there's no room for the U.S. administration to say they're not prepared to deal or handle with this. The issue really to me is, at the end of the day, when there's press briefings daily, Shanquella Robinson's name should be brought up every single day in a press briefing, because she is a U.S. citizen that was murdered abroad. So she shouldn't be receiving any different treatment than any other U.S. citizen that was murdered abroad. So I think that the administration is failing her also in that way. But we're focusing on going directly to the highest authority that we can and saying this diplomatic intervention is necessary, and it's necessary now. And our press conference in DC is just, the family is asking for the public and people who are supporters of their family to do the same, to contact the State Department, to contact their representatives and say, why isn't the U.S. intervening in this case on behalf of Shanquella Robinson? Why isn't it being prioritized? It needs to be prioritized.
Yeah, we have about a minute left, but before we wrap up our time with you today, let's tap into Breonna Taylor's case, which of course sparked a DOJ investigation into the Louisville Police Department. Can we get your thoughts on the report that Attorney General Garland Merrick just released? Any thoughts on that, or any thoughts surrounding this particular case that's still trying to be brought to justice as well?
Right. The Attorney General's DOJ report basically found that the policing in Louisville is discriminatory towards Black people. And I thought to myself, first reading it, well, water is wet. That's why there were so many demonstrations. That's what the people have been saying. That's what we've been saying. So it's great that we have these reports. But the real question is, what is next? Are we going to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? Is something actually going to be done, as opposed to just continuously gaslighting Black Americans, minority communities, saying you're being discriminated against and you're being abused by modern day policing? We know that. They've done the similar reports in Ferguson, similar reports in Baltimore. So now the next question is, what is going to be done?
Our thanks to civil rights attorney Sue Ann Robinson. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
And we really look forward to having you back on for more updates as you continue to pursue justice for Shanquella Robinson.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Indeed. With Sue Ann Robinson on the case, partnered with Ben Crump and that whole unit of folks pushing for more to be done in this case. My hope is that the U.S. will continue to do their part in making sure that that family has justice. It's been too long already.
That's right. Very long and very unusual circumstances, right? And so we know that there's an FBI investigation that is currently happening now.
Right.
But clearly, according to Sue Ann Robinson and Ben Crump and others, it doesn't feel like the government is doing nearly enough to support the family of Shanquella Robinson.